to the Buddha Dharma TV. I'm Karen Tan. Namo Buddhaya. Over 1 billion people worldwide joyfully celebrate the Chinese Lunar New Year. We, the Buddha Dharma TV, warmly wishes them a great and prosperous year, filled with happiness, peace, and success. Today, on this eve, we begin our program with a Buddhist sermon by the Venerable Bhikkhu Rahula of Mexico. He is the chief Buddhist monk of Mexico, an expert on Abhidharma, a skillful preacher with a sound knowledge of the Buddha Dharma. His topic of the sermon is very appealing. That is, please welcome Bande Rahula of Mexico.
Welcome to a Wednesday with Clear Mountain, and today we're joined by Bante Rahula from Guadalajara. Good to see you, Bante.
Good to see you, Bante. Thanks.
So, a brief introduction. Bante Rahula, born in Mexico, has spent the last 22 years in Asia in various periods, where he has practiced and studied the Dhamma. He was ordained in Myanmar by Sayadaw Dr. Nandamala Bivangsa, who is his preceptor. Since 2004, he has received meditation guidance from Sayadaw Utejaniya. For 6 years, Bante studied suttas and Abhidhamma with Sayadaw Dr. Ukamsakara in Macau. In 2019, he completed a course on Buddhist scriptures from Harvard. He underwent monastic Vinaya training for 2 years at Sasanaraka Buddhist Sanctuary, that's Bante Aryadhamaka, who we interviewed several weeks ago, in Malaysia, where he also led retreats and Dhamma activities in the local community. Currently, Bante is constructing the Mexican Buddhist Center Panyabhumi to introduce and propagate the Buddhist teaching in South America. He is also actively involved in diverse programs to aid parts of society in overcoming drug addiction and alcoholism, as well as supporting educational campaigns for children and teens to prevent such problems in this region. And our good friends Aya Santusika and Aya Chitananda were the ones who connected us with Bante, and we've been meeting for poly study with him every week. And it's just such a pleasure to actually have you join us, Venerable. So,
Thank you.
So, Bante, tell us about the very beginning of that intro. How did you come to Buddhism and then eventually to robes?
Yeah, I was very interested since childhood into spirituality, I would say, in different ways. So I was having many questions since long. And then as I started, I was a musician and I started traveling the world because of the music. And then I started, because of music, exploring many cultures and hence religions because they are intertwined. And then when I was 26 years old, I fell into a depression. And all the questions that I was making in different religions that I tried, Catholicism, Native American tradition here with the sweat lodge, sun dance, and the vision quest, and practiced that for 8 years. And then Hinduism before that, and then even Islam, some part because of my teacher in India. And then I felt kind of lost. And I didn't like Buddhism. That was the funny thing, because the only thing we knew here in Mexico was the big Buddha that you rub the belly so your business goes well. So since child, I felt like kind of like abomination. It really came. Now I kind of imagine why that feeling. I was feeling kind of insulted. It was strange. So I fell into the depression, and I was in England and then traveled to Asia because of the music. And in Japan, a friend told me that there were some 10-day silence retreat. And when she said silence, yeah, it really resonated. But she didn't say it was Buddhist until I went. It was a Goenka retreat in Kyoto in 2001. And when I heard Goenkaji speaking about the Dhamma, it was just like, yes, that. And I just pulled the thread. I stayed for 2-3 years only practicing that. But then also some questions, I was getting similar answers over and over. So I said, I need to go to find the source. And through a good friend, Alexis Santos, you may know him, he teaches Dhamma.
Yes.
IMS. So he was ordained that time in Shue Umin. And then he said, well, here it is, the source. And then I went, and as I arrived, they told me that I could try the ropes temporarily, and I didn't hesitate. 2004. I tried them, and the rest is history. I just continue. I was temporary monk 5 times. In Burma is common, but because I still had the concerts and the projects and the wife and family and the company and etc. Until 10 years before this ordination, almost 10 years ago, we prepared everything with my ex-wife until I said, yes, it's time. I was certain that I felt comfortable and that this mind was better with the frame of the Vinaya. It was more beneficial for me and for others. So if you ask me in short, when people ask, why did you become a monk? The shortest and very direct answer is because of mental quality. Just that. Seeing how this mind behaves in the lay context, having credit for everything, what it does and what it thinks, and it was normal. I was not a bad person, actually, I think, nor under the thing. But when you compare to what a human mind can do once it has this frame, oh, for you and for others and for your own family and parents, it's no comparison. So that has kept the strength to continue and the reason.
On that point, Venerable, we talked briefly before we went live just about a recent encounter you had with death, and you don't have to go into the kind of intimate details of it so much as talking about that difference in framing and how the mind and heart reacts when it has a perspective of Dhamma and not. Can you we have a lot of people in the community, as with every community, who have death in their lives right now, and yeah, what reflections did you come out of this recent encounter with that heavenly messenger with?
Yeah. The thing that shake the mind, it was a friend of my same age, very dear friend, close, and we have been knowing each other and sharing since kindergarten. So you can imagine how close. So when I saw him, and he actually looks quite similar physically to me. So when I went to the hospital and saw his body, and then in the ceremony, and then I saw it was unavoidable to really think, today I died. And this could be me easily. I mean, it was easy, the closest person. And then I was seeing the people, and family will be in the same way, crying or sobbing, and then remembering the good qualities. So it was really shaken. And these days, this was Sunday. So it really moved because of the closeness. And I'm very grateful now. So the mind is shaken, and in the morning when coming out from the dreams or whatever, and this moment when it is not yet in here, the rawness of our real attitudes pops up. So immediately when it comes, because of the, as you may know, and the people here in the community will know, that the tools of the Dhamma start coming up. And I really felt, I will tell you about the work. The work is whatever reaction the mind has, I take it as a good opportunity to start polishing it. Okay, there is a little spike here. Let's polish it. Relax the body. This will anyway come. So what are you going to, etc., etc. But then, as you mentioned, I started thinking on all the people who is facing this and way worse situations without tools. I really felt a deep sense of care and understanding that, and seeing, for example, the recent reactions of people, the attitudes they have towards life happenings and death. I really felt some of us, even with tools, will not be able to make it. So that was really, even we try, there won't be enough time. For example, I see the parents or the uncles and aunties of my friend, how long it takes for a mind who is willing and honestly trying to practice the Dhamma to start softening up to reality. And even with it is shaken, and then you look the time where they are in their lives, and the realization, some of us will not make it. What can we do as monks and etc.? So it's a work in progress, and I'm very glad about it, and very glad to have a container to put all these things and feeling the community, my teachers, etc. So yes, very, very beneficial, challenging, and good opportunity.
Bhante, you talk about the different tools that you found, or tools that exist in Buddhism to look at these truths of life. And you mentioned that your first main introduction to Buddhism or to Dhamma was through the Goenka tradition, and then eventually you made your way to Shui Min Monastery, which is the monastery of Venerable U Tejaniya. And I'm curious if you could talk about, I mean, the Goenka tradition is great because it does teach in a very secular way. You know, someone can go into it like I did and not even know it was Buddhist. Whereas you go to a monastery like Shui Min, U Tejaniya is teaching a more explicitly Buddhist form, and I'm curious how you were able to wade into that, and what is the technique or what is the practice at Shui Min U Tejaniya's monastery? What does he teach?
Yeah. So the thing is, through the practice of Goenkaji for 4 years, something like that, it was unmistakably the benefits of the practice and the Dhamma and the clarity and the reason and the logic of it, it was undeniable. So once seeing the benefit and many of the things that at the beginning, although I come from a Latin culture, we have somehow Western education kind of. It's more on this style than in Asian style. So I have to confess that at the beginning, some of the formalities and the bowing, and I think I was even being Latin, that we have kind of sada and all this, I was having some hesitation. But once you see and you prove even small things that were mentioned that will happen, and then you see that they happen, this inference that comes forward the future starts releasing the mind. And then when I arrived to the monastic thing, sorry, at that time that was how the mind had this monastic thing. then the mind was open, and then you continue seeing the benefits of the robes and all the thing, and then the minds eventually just come. And also I have to say that since child I had the fear of becoming a monk already. So you see, in Spanish we say when the river sounds it's because it has water. So I faced many things, and I had the question. The Hindu, as I mentioned, I was with Hindu monks for some time, and they wanted to bring me to India because they told me at one time in one meeting, a bunch of monks came, and the master came and says, and tell me, you have potential to become a monk. And I was 18 years old, and it was too much of an information, and I kind of got hard and frightened. But then I went when I was 26 years old in Shui Min. I was still curious, and I'm very curious about it. So I was, I can try it. And then they come back, and then they say, yes, you can try it. I didn't hesitate. So now in Shui Min, what was the difference? Well, as you know, in Goenka tradition, it's only sitting mostly. But when I arrived, and I thought that was, as many people misunderstood that because Goenkaji says that in 10 days, that this is the only way, referring to the Satipatthana Sutta. No, this is the way for the liberation of beings. I think he's referring to that. But as many people I have seen, and friends and dear family, we take it, this is the only way, and this is Vipassana. But then what happened when I arrived to the monastery, and then the Searuta Jinya started opening, the real Satipatthana, as you see, you can do it walking, speaking, quiet, eating, and all this. It was like, wow, it really opened another dimension. And one of the main things that I appreciate from Bhante Searutajaniya's teaching is the trust he has on the practitioner. Because in many places you are cared and you are scheduled everything, but that in some way doesn't allow you, when you go back home, it's even harder to apply because you cannot follow that schedule back home, and then the disparity between retreat time and your life becomes wider and wider. And I was even developing aversion towards the worldly thing. Here the meditators, something like this. But then Seattle Tajania just brought it down to the bone and to life itself with this coolness, as you know him, this kind of demeanor that is open and even interested, and where curiosity is cherished. Imagine for a child that I liked all the time science and all this, but a place where curiosity and investigation is celebrated. What? And you are free. And Tiago Tejania tells us, you are not a child. I don't need to take care of what you do. Do I need to ask if you take a shower? Do I need to ask your mental hygiene? You meditate in whichever position you wish. But I will ask you only one instruction. From the moment you wake up until the moment you go to bed, you just be aware of what the mind is doing, taking note, and giving all that information eventually to wisdom. When he gave that freedom, I mean, that responsibility, that trust he has entails responsibility from us, but responsibility and freedom goes hand in hand. The more responsible we are, the more free. Wow, that was and that was a boost in the practice. There have been 2 boosts in the practice, and that was the first one, from coming from Cuenca, and then Xueomin and South Virginia. It was like taking the string in the pier for a boat. You take the anchor of a boat, and suddenly, and then I'm not saying it was not moving before, but it was way richer.
Venerable, you've talked about kind of this freedom and taking all this wisdom gained and feeding it to wisdom, or all this knowledge gained and feeding it to wisdom. And you just have a joy to you. And you've also experienced all these different monastic and Buddhist cultures. I mean, you went to Harvard and studied texts in a very academic environment. You were with Utejenia, Goenka. You studied at Sasana Raka, which is a very pristine Vinaya. And now you're setting up a monastery in Mexico, and one of the first monks to do that in this tradition, or in the forest tradition. So the question is, what kind of notes from those different Buddhist cultures have you kind of taken in, and what have you been able to feed to wisdom in terms of setting up a monastery where you are right now? And I know that's a hugely broad question, but I don't even know where to start. Like, what did you learn from this really wide journey through the Buddhist world?
As we every place has something to offer. So I've been trying to, very similar, because knowing that you interview Bhante Ariyya, my dear teacher and an elder brother in the past, I've been taking things and incorporating, as we all had to. I've done taking things. So, for example, the freedom and openness from Seattle Tejaniya, and then the seriousness about scholarly from Burmese monks, and then now, as you mentioned, in Sasanaraka, the attitude towards monastic life. And I will say that in every place I've been coming close to the Dhamma. Every place have been showing the Dhamma, but then showing the Buddha himself. The faith has been improving everywhere. But for example, for me, the attitude Burmese monks have towards the Buddha, it has shaped the attitude more than when I am hanging out with some monks, for example, in the West or so. So the Sada part with it. And then I can say that what I learned in Sasanaraka in Malaysia, it was the meaning of Sangha. And that part was really missing for a monk, for a practitioner, and as the 3 refuges. So for me, these last 2 years in Sasanaraka, the attitude, and also I have to say it's kind of intimate, but I have to say that when I arrived to Sasanaraka, all the bolts were there, but many of them were loose. So Sasanaraka kind of tightened some of the bolts. I'm not assuming that it's done the work, but many of those who were very important in terms of the Vinaya and the attitude, I'm so grateful for all of it, but especially this recent experience where the 3 refuges got complete. I had no problem appreciating and thanking the Buddha deeply. I mean, the head cannot go lower than the floor until we start changing humility from within. It just kind of bounces. When your head cannot go lower than the floor, you are forced to change and develop humility from within, and that's the gift. And then the Dhamma was the gift. It has been the gift. But then coming and going to SBS and getting the Sangha, now I feel, although the construction, as you can see, I'm now already, it's raining outside and it's not raining in, already covering from the building, the monastery here. I think these last 3 years that I was in Asia was one of the pieces, and I feel confident to then start showing, and with all humility, as much as I can master at this moment, my teachers, including Bhante Ariyya, are happy of how it is being done, and I feel supported by them, by you also here now here in America. So it's like, oh yes, let's do this. It's I feel confident that boom, as in science they said, we are standing in the shoulders of giants. So it's like, yes, let's see, the karma is like this in this way. Okay, let's try our best, and then yeah, that is kind of that is giving.
So,
Mm.
so Bante, now you're back in Mexico, and I think a couple years ago you did a Dama tour, basically traveling around Latin America.
Yeah.
And so you can obviously teach in English, you can teach in Spanish, you can teach in Portuguese. What are the different flavors of these different countries? Do you teach differently to Anglos when you're in America? Do you teach a certain way versus how you teach in Mexico? Do you lean into certain teachings when you're teaching in Spanish or in these different countries? So just love to hear about the spectrum of the flavor of the Dhamma.
Yes, actually, the teaching is, I would say, is very similar or the same. Of course, the language will change, and also the cultural implications of it. There are some popular sayings that I can use in Spanish that sometimes I translate in English, as I mentioned one right now, in the river something. So that kind of enriches. And in English, there are some others that I cannot use here or there. So actually, once establishing the connection with the person who is interested in learning, and if they invited me, of course, if they don't ask me, I don't open the mouth generally, as we know from our teachers. Is in Spanish we say, calladito te ves más bonito. It sounds very good in Spanish. He says, quiet, you look more beautiful. So calladito, which means small, te ves más bonito. So, but when once the invitation is there, actually what differs and changes from culture to culture, country to country, it is the beginning of reaching until we settle together that we are doing something wholesome for our common benefit. That is what changes until we gain confidence in and try to see that we are pedaling on the same boat. So when we see the usefulness of the Dhamma, so actually I generally wish to arrive to three words that we can enjoy as a group. The first one is to use whatever need to be said in English, Portuguese, or whatever, to show that the Dhamma is pertinent to you. It has something to do with you. It has something to do with life. And since we are alive, it is important. One. The second thing that needs to be settled, as a pattern, now I'm seeing that I go with that, and it starts, the machine starts rolling. The second thing is curiosity. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it unbelievable that we're floating on a rock right now, that we born floating, everything has happened floating, and we will pass away floating? The reality really is the same as I mean, with our identification and self, me, mine. And when we open a little bit and look, yes, that's true. We have been floating this whole time, even with this. When curiosity sparks, then two things. It is important. It has something to do with me, with my family. And the third one, it will be very important to develop what the Dhamma has to offer, because life is moving and challenges are coming. Wait, challenges are coming. I'm not being like a doomsday, but just by being a human and getting older and the sickness and everything. So once we realize these three things, the difference comes on how to reach the culture and to reach into these three words or attitudes or things to contemplate. But once we settle, and that there is no competition or division, we are just trying to contemplate as brothers and sisters, friends, kalyanamitas, because I have the same predicament. We are all getting old. Once we arrive to these three, then the teaching becomes very similar, and the stories or the suttas or the techniques are common. But the differences happen on this little moment that, for example, in a retreat with newcomers, it might take 1 to 2 days until you establish something. And then finally, there is a degree of Samvega with the last one. There is a degree of faith. And then you start kind of gauging where is the community, and try to, with as much as we can, try to provide, strengthen what is already there, and trying to provide in case there is some lack of any of the, for example, spiritual faculties, kind of which one would it, and then you can see then the difference between cultures, because for example in the United States some of the spiritual faculties, reasoning, or in the West, and then sada in other countries, effort in Asia for example is yeah do, so then you say oh it's getting too much, let's focus more on the joy of the Dhamma. So kind of it becomes kind of a play, a kind of a exchange. Yeah.
Speaking about kind of navigating challenges in the midst of practice, every time we talk to Bhante, every week there's almost something else happening. I think last week he'd been stung by a scorpion and was still numb. The week before, like the paint fumes had come. The week before, you were chasing after some workers trying to get, it was, and yet you always have this sort of smile and levity in the Dhamma. And I do want to speak about some of the more, you've, despite, or maybe because of that kind of lightness, you've helped people in a lot of suffering, including a lot of addicts. But before that, we just have a lot of interest in the chat around how people can get a hold of you and learn more about the project. And if the website's not ready, which I think it may not be, we could always in the description of this video list an email or something. But Bhante, how can people kind of learn about this project or support it in some way?
Yes. Well, the website is coming. I can pass the email or WhatsApp. That's the way. In case the people speak Spanish, every Sunday there is a session on Zoom where Latin American community, including Brazil, although they speak Portuguese, we are finding a way to communicate. We are joining every Sunday at 7 a.m. Mexico time. So that will be quite early. Quite early for you. Yeah, 2 hours before. So 5. In case someone speaks Spanish, can join. Sometimes there are sessions in English, and there are some YouTube channels but they are in Spanish, and there are some YouTube channels from the associations in Malaysia where some of the talks, in case of taking some of the talks, in order to know, I know we can find a way to contact. And yes, we are still on the process of building and finishing the monastery. It's in the forest and it's a very suitable place, and we are still moving forward. And yes, any support will be very welcome. And yeah, we can find another session or together with you and exchange. If the people have questions, we can find a way to contact.
It's one of the most beautiful monasteries we've ever seen. Bhante gave us this tour, and the website is in the works, but people have been saying a WhatsApp link would be great. We will post numerous ways of getting a hold of Bhante in the description of this video later tonight. So don't just check it out there if you're watching this, and you can find ways.
Yeah, sorry, Bhante.
No,
but
please.
Forgot to mention that I will do 3 retreats in the United States in March. So there will be a retreat in Houston. It is in it's a Mahayana temple, but they're opening to Theravada monks, and Bhikkhu Bodhi has given some teachings there. So many other Theravada monks are coming. So I will be, sometimes I'm giving Dhamma talks in English for that association. I can pass you the dates. 2 are coming soon. I think before the retreat there is one. So the retreat in Houston, there is gonna be 2 more retreats. One in Creston, Colorado. You know, also in Tibetan monasteries, but they have many interest in the Theravada tradition. And another one in Taos, New Mexico, for the Dharma Gates Association, that one is kind of focused on youth. I think from they go to 30 years, 25 to 30, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Dharma Gates is great, and yeah, we'll list all this information for people as well.
So people willing or that wish to come can join on these retreats, and then we can, once there, we can arrange for some meeting or talk or questions, and just Dhamma hanging out.
Nice. One thing Ajahn Nisabo mentioned is just your work with addicts or people who are struggling with addiction. I'd be curious to hear more about that. And yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah, Bhante. One of the things that has been very beneficial, unfortunately, the directors of the centers, although some of them are Catholic priests, they are recognizing that the Buddha's teaching has a lot to say about attachment. obviously. I mean, it is the thing, it's the core. So some of the attitude, most of the centers here in Mexico at least, are founded by the church. So you won't believe what has happened. I have a picture somewhere, I don't have it ready, but I have had the opportunity to give a Dhamma talk inside the chapel, in the church. I mean, Jesus, the cross is in the back and Mary is on the side. And I came and they say, Father, are you sure you want me to give the Dhamma talk here? I mean, I was not going to speak about sensible things, obviously. It was about and he said, yeah. This is a celebration. So in the church, imagine I've been going to the Franciscan University for 3 years already to speak about Abhidhamma and the Dhamma and some of it about the Vinaya. They're very interested how you deal with celibacy, how the Buddhist monks live. So you can imagine, I'm just putting the openness that is around. So once getting into the point, most of the attitude, and I very respectfully say it, it's just the fact. Very often in the centers, they said to the people that is in because of drug addiction, alcoholism, and sometimes even mental problems developed by the misuse of those substances. They generally, the attitude is give your problems to God and God will heal them. And then I come and start speaking. I remember one time I was invited to one event and the previous speaker spoke about that. Give your problems to the Holy Spirit and the Holy Spirit will take care of them. And I was, gee, what am I going to do? I have already the slides talking about self-responsibility. I'm doomed. He just finished. And then the gentleman sat down to listen to the talk. And then I was like, well, okay, I have this, and here we go. And then we arrived to the point. Obviously, the Buddha's teaching has so much to speak about. It is the thing about what attachment. And then we level the ground and saying, generally, we point you, the drug addicts, or the people who is sick, or whatever, many labels I put, but who can raise the hand here that is not addicted to something? And then I raise the phone. Who can throw the first stone? So actually, let's level the ground. There is no sick people. There is not the drug addict, the one that is in, the one that is out. We are all in this game. It can be food, it can be sand. So starting leveling the I think when I would call them kind of inmates, just to say, or the patients, I don't know how you want to say, but the people, they cannot go out. It's kind of a jail, temporary. They find this attitude when I strip myself in front of them and says, actually, I'm also addicted to many things. Yeah. Actually, already. So let's speak from a human point of view and what tools are there. To the point that we reach the moment to say, can we blame somebody else for what we are, for the situation we are? And some people come, no, because I drink because of this, I took the drugs because of that. And then I ask the question sometimes, and I know it's tough, but we have arrived to the point to say, who put the drug in your mouth? Was that society? Was that the person in charge of the economy or something? Who put it in your mouth? And then we can start dealing with things and then bringing many tools for inner contemplation, metta. There is a lot of anger because most of them are forced to be there. So forgiveness, and then Brahma Viharas, and then contemplation, and then the structure of our minds and how we form our decision. Oh, then once we level kind of the ground and they find that I don't come to criticize, even we are in a church, we're not speaking about beliefs, we're speaking about facts. Does any here gets impatient from time to time? Yes, and I also raise the hand. Does any here feel gratitude? Yes, all of us. So it's leveled. Let's start to do what we can do with this conundrum.
That's great, Venerable. And I know you also work with the parents of addicts. Yeah. And for me, in some ways, that is the most, I think that's probably where many of the community that we have children who are deeply addicted to really problematic substances and more. So how would you advise a parent or speak to a parent kind of trying to deal with that in their child?
Yeah, we start by taking our responsibility, especially when the drug addict is an adult. Very often, one of the things that we started finding at the beginning, I was not going with the parents, but then later on being with the inmates somehow in these centers, because there are some kind of temporary jail, not legally, but they cannot go out. So once we are going to the patients, let's say, or the I don't know the word in English, the right word, but we recognize that the problem is not just them. The whole family was affected by their behavior. And one of the painful things that we found in parents very often is guilt and remorse by the question. They didn't give the drug to them, but they have the thought very often, what did I did wrong for my child? What did I did wrong, or what did I didn't do? Or what was too much? Because very often is that they gave only money and not presents, and they didn't know where they were spending their money, and so how they feel. So that needs to be addressed soon, and start checking responsibilities from one to the other side, what they can do, and try to make the best with what there is. So this guilt, I think, is one of the things that haunts parents the most. And then once speaking, there is a talk about this in Spanish. Maybe we can I have the slides and all this prepared. We can do it one time in English. And seeing the potential we have now, as I mentioned already before, the personal responsibility from the addict and the parents, and bringing tools to deal with this grief, bring these tools to bring with this anger, bring these tools to deal, and know also that the problem is, at least here in Mexico, it's not just the family, it's socially, it's who the people, who the young ones are hanging out and the places they are visiting. So it is bigger, the problem, and we just start slowly trying to dissect, as the saying says, divide and conquer, because when we take the ball, and for parents to and the people in the centers to start to give tools to deal with the emotions that are rising because of the situation, there is many things that can, and the Brahma Viharas again, and the as you know, many things we can hold. Yeah.
You talk about like the social aspect of a life, and how being there in Mexico, you've gone in and taught in churches and temples, and then how easy it is for these people who have saddha or faith, that the faith in Catholicism or in Christianity, will, it sounds like, easily transfer to Buddhism, even though the object of faith, as you point out, is one in Catholicism of other-centeredness. Like, you pray to God, and that is what can cause the change, versus in Buddhism, where I'm the owner of my actions, heir to my actions, born in my actions. How do you think that works, that the faith is able to transfer? Do you think is it an emotional thing, and because it's emotional, it's able to just, cross the rational differences, or how does that work?
Actually, to have faith is a gift. As we know, it's one of the spiritual faculties. It must be there. So we Latin American people, we don't lack faith in terms of comparison. For example, Western European or people, or young people, or any kind of people in the United States. And you have something in your advantage. So now we need to balance the other one, the reason one. So then the work, if the person already, I know culturally we already have sadha, that is not a trouble for us to believe on something. But if too much, we can become credulous and easily manipulated. That is the problem. Once you bring this one, then we said, as my teacher says, faith and wisdom are the two wings of the same bird. If one is only flapping, the bird will turn this way or turn this way. So now when going to the United States, which you mentioned a little bit the differences before, now in the United States or in Europe, it is the opposite. There is a lot of reason, a lot of skepticism in some way, and sadha is weak. So now we need to pump up the sadha. Pump up the wisdom side. So take the advantage of what is present, and start giving and reframing it and giving a meaning. Going towards your question. Now the sadha wasn't a supernatural, all powerful being that is controlling or created everything. Now keep that, understand that when we say I believe in God, or I believe in this, we use the verb is believe, to believe onto something. And then I said, don't worry, here we are not changing beliefs. You can believe in whatever you wish. So you won't believe, Bande, but priests have come to the sessions here in the monastery. They have come, and I'm invited to their university to speak. So the first thing to leave clear is, you see, belief is the same as you, what you wish to believe in the same ways that how you wish to dress and what you like to eat. But facts are different. Whatever you believe, no one can deny heat or cold. Can we? Can we deny gravity? Can we deny that we sometimes get angry? Anyone? Is there Christian, or as Wenka said, this comes right from, is there Christian anger or Catholic or Buddhist anger or Hindu anger or male anger or female anger? It has, once we get into dealing with the fact we are here, once they feel as a monk that I don't come to try to convert, we are not missionaries, and let them know that we are not missionaries. I was asked to come here, and you asked the question. Then I opened the mouth. And that we see that we are not dealing or trying to change no one's belief. That's a personal choice if you wish, or that came from culture, family. Let's deal with facts. Do you sometimes get impatient? Raise the hand who wants to get impatient. And I'm the first one to raise it up. And all of us, vroom, the whole room sounds vroom. Raise the hand if you feel gratitude. Vroom. Who has felt love in the past, or today in the morning, or yesterday? Vroom. Now let's deal with facts. And I come to clear, this is why I'm a Buddhist monk. That this is a little bit of a, this, and it's true. This is why I'm a Buddhist monk. This is what caught my attention, because we're dealing with nature and reality and something that you can explore, and you are free to choose. Let the facts adjust your belief later on, but that is your process. I have nothing to do. I am on my own process. Let's try to decrease the negativity and increase the positivity. Are you up for it? Yes. And it has been flowing on since then. But I think that as monks here in the West, it's very important to leave that, level the ground in that way, and the doors in the churches, in the universities, Catholic universities. To be very honest, I have never felt any I don't know how
Contempt, maybe.
or looking down or anything. Actually, it's been the opposite, and it's growing. More and more people is looking for the monastery and inviting to different places.
Venerable, first, if people have questions they'd like to put in the chat, we do still have a few minutes with Bhante
Yes.
before we jump over to Zoom. But speaking about the monastery, you have been working to build the Panyabhumi for the last few years, and it's a lot of work. And you are navigating contractors and putting, laminate on tiles. And every time we talk to you, there's some other element as well. So how do you, for the many people watching this who have jobs and projects which are constantly feeling like they impinge on their practice or their meditation, how do you keep your practice together while building a monastery? This is somewhat relevant for us too.
In the transitions. So be very respectful to those spaces, because between talking to one contractor or the carpenter, yes, I tried, in general, as we have instructions, we try to be as mindful as possible while talking to the carpenter. So I generally, Asiaru Tajania speaks about one tool that has proven to be priceless. It's percentages of attention. So I'm going to speak to the carpenter, and the minimum will be, at least I will keep 50% on the body. And generally, if I'm standing, in the weight of the body so easily, or the touch of the cloth and the body, so I keep 50% of attention in. Anyway, I can understand what the carpenter is talking about, and I can clearly converse whatever needs to be done. But a part of the mind, 50% of the attention is on the body, and 50% of whatever is that. Now, if the thing is very pressing and you need to go, definitely you can see the attention slipping, flowing out, 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, 100-0 sometimes, no? So that can happen, and it's bound to happen, because often it depends on the situation. We pull or drag more or less. But then the transition, even if the plumber is on the side, just the moment to turn, that transition is the gold. You don't speak even from the kitchen to the room to speak to the carpenter or something. You have a few steps to come back. And I do use the word actually in English, because I don't know, in Spanish it doesn't. I say come back, come back, come back. So in this little moment between client and client, talking about the lay community or our brothers and sisters here, even if you are very busy in the day between client and client, I swear there is at least a few seconds where one can take 1 or 2 breaths to come back to the body, check out, remember some teaching, and whenever possible, in my case, if the day is very hectic, at the end of the day, when the workers eventually they leave at 5 or 6, and then evening time is precious, alone time and practice, doing walking, sitting, and looking at this Buddha. Is one of the, just sitting here in front and just seeing in silence. So transitions is gold. It's gold. I call that practice rescuing our transitions, and that, even when I was a layperson, really saved the sanity, if we can say, of this mind being in the world. Yeah.
Bhante, you say that this specific type of noting, come back, you use the English words. Are there
Yes.
any ones which are better in Spanish, specific notes to come back to mindfulness that really work better in Spanish that you could recommend?
You know, I've been trying to simplify the things. There are so many aspects in the Tipitaka Netu that we can focus on. Sometimes I same as many people, has been overwhelmed. So many instructions. Which one should I do? Which one should I do? So I'm trying to boil down. So which one works? When I'm walking here in the tunnel, doing walking meditation, I use actually 3 languages. And in Spanish works really good once you're saying, bringing in the mind. So I go, netang mama, neso hamas miname so atati. And then the next round, I say, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. But depending on where the mind is and how much is it, yeah, I'm still making investigation, but depending what the content of the day was, very often when I say that in Spanish, things get serious.
How do you say it in Spanish? What's the Spanish?
Esto no es mío.
Ah.
Esto no soy. Esto no es el ser. Even now that I'm saying it, you can imagine the conditioning of this cultural conditioning of this mind in this life, because it's just a chapter. But when I go and say this one, which meaning not just coming back, but being here and letting go of something that doesn't belong to you, is just borrowed for a little while, and you can enjoy it, yes, respectfully, but it's going to go. Wanting it or not, here we go. As we say, no, we are playing hide and seek. Wanting or not, here we go. So, esto no es mío. And I'm actually when we finish the painting, I will write it in Pali and Spanish under, in the entrance of the tunnel, as a reminder. This is not mine. Esto no es mío. Esto no soy. Esto no es el ser o el yo. Ooh, the Spanish really speak. It's like when you remember when your father called you by your full name. Ooh, when your mama says Raúl Saldaña. Ooh, you remember. That kind of thing happens in the mind when the Spanish come, and it's easy.
Bhante, this is a pleasure. And we have a just comment from the chat. I have no specific question, just extending thanks to Bhante Rahula for this opportunity to hear him speak. His positivity and energy is infectious. And come back, in your own words. We hope we actually get you to come back up here. We might get to this spring. And Venerable, all the best luck with creating the refuge you are down there, with all the training and care. And it's so evident just talking. We're grateful for the friendship. And those who want to continue to talk to Bhante Rahula, join us on Zoom. We posted the link in the chat, and we'll jump over there now. But Venerable, thank you so much.
Oh, my dear Bhante, my dear brothers, thank you so much. Thank you.
Here is a devotional song to the Triple Gem. With reverent hearts, we bow before the Master's holy shrine.
With reverent hearts we bow
continue with our next item, we have most vulnerable Bhikkhuni Aya Upeka from the Newbury Buddhist Monastery in Melbourne, in Australia. Let's respectfully invite Aya Upeka to deliver her sermon on Here is Vulnerable.
Buddha mengatakan di Anggutara Nikaya itu, ayu wana suka balak saga, usia panjang, kerupawanan, kebahagiaan, dan kelahiran di surga tidak bisa didapatkan dengan cara berdoa. Ini kata Buddha. Kemudian kalimat berikutnya kira-kira begini, seandainya itu semua bisa didapatkan dengan cara berdoa, maka siapa manusia ini yang akan kekurangan dari 5 ini? Pasti akan dapat semua kan, usia panjang, kerupawanan, ya, kebahagiaan, dan lahir di surga semua. Paham logikanya Buddha? pendidikan tinggi kalian tidak akan pernah bisa membentuk kalian jadi orang baik. Disinilah peran penting agama. Karena dari agamalah kalian akan diberi informasi, segala informasi yang kalian butuhkan untuk untuk membentuk kehidupan kalian. Ya, bukan sekolahan. Agama Buddha memberikan banyak informasi kepada kita untuk mengolah dan membentuk kehidupan kita. Kalian tetap sekolah supaya nanti bisa cari uang, tetapi kalian harus mengimbangi kehidupan kalian dengan menjadi orang yang agamis. Seseorang yang mempelajari ajaran Buddha dan juga mempraktekkannya. Kalau kamu pengen kekuti saya di sana, melewatnya sana, ya nggak akan sampai sana. Makanya Buddha mengatakan berdoa bukanlah sesuatu yang mengarah ke usia panjang, kerupawanan, kebahagiaan, serta kelahiran di surga. Bukan mengarah ke sana. Kalau kalian ingin lahir di surga, maka kalian harus berjalan di atas jalan yang menuju ke sana. Lakukan sesuatu yang bisa membuat kalian sampai di surga. Kalau kalian pengen buah mangga, maka kalian harus tanam pohon mangga, benih mangga. Paham? Logikanya begitu. Kalau kalian pengen buah apel, tanamlah benih apel. Ya. Jadi kalau kalian pengen efek, sediakanlah sebab-sebabnya. Kalau kalian pengen meditasi kalian berhasil supaya bisa menyadari nafas masuk dan keluar, perkuatlah persepsi kalian tentang nafas masuk dan nafas keluar.
With reverent hearts we bow before the Master's holy shrine. Peacefully we contemplate His countenance sublime. His sacred precepts we accept to guide us day by day. Thus follow we His footsteps and tread.
Well, that's all for today. If you have any questions regarding our programs, please don't hesitate to contact us at info@buddhadharmatv.com. Our team is committed to sharing the noble and profound teachings of the Buddha, guiding you on your spiritual journey with his timeless wisdom. Thank you for being with us. See you at the same time next week. Happy New Year. Namo Buddhaya.